The former Britain Foreign Affairs Secretary Jeremy Hunt has been appointed to replace Kwasi Kwarteng as Finance Minister. UK Prime Minister Liz Truss made the announcement yesterday during a briefing. She has assured Britons that the country's economic turmoil will soon be a thing of the past. I'm now joined by Noel Ferguson, who is a political analyst all the way from London, on the implications of Kwasi Kwarteng's sacking on the country's economy and the future of the new Prime Minister Liz Truss. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ferguson. Now, Kwarteng's departure comes after a month in the job and 3 weeks after he announced a tax-cutting mini-budget that sent the pound plunging to record lows against the US dollar. What do you think led to that final decision of the Prime Minister in ousting the former Finance Minister?
And asking him to go. There are a number of issues which all combine together to create a mayhem situation over the past few weeks. First of all, we heard Liz Truss a few moments ago say she was very sorry to lose Kwasi Kwarteng. She didn't lose him, she sacked him. What she did lose was the confidence of the markets and the country in its entirety. And one of the best commentaries I heard about Kwasi Kwarteng is that somebody said the shelf life in a supermarket of a lettuce is longer than the duration of which Kwasi Kwarteng was the Chancellor of the Exchequer. So in some ways we're saying we would have been better with a lettuce doing the job. But the point is, Liz Truss, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, commenting on the appointment of Liz Truss, and I said she was really the best of a bad bunch, and unfortunately that has come to fruition. She has ultimate responsibility for her appointment of Chancellor, for oversight of the mini-budget as it was, for leading the country through this turbulent times. She actually created the turbulence and made it worse. There's no point in blaming it on anybody else. It was their particular actions which led to the situation we find ourselves in. And she actually just admitted in that interview that the markets weren't prepared for the mini-budget. But yet the Secretary of State for Business a few days ago chastised the BBC for suggesting that it was the budget that caused the mayhem. And he said, oh, you're not being impartial, there's no direct causality. It could equally have been due to the fact that the US raised interest rates at a lower degree than what the UK did the day prior to the budget. So even the messages within government have been confused. So is it any wonder the rest of society and the markets have been confused as a consequence?
But, Kwarteng defended the government's economic plan, saying that the country faces an incredibly difficult situation and following the status quo was certainly not an option. Some describe him as politically stubborn and doesn't tend to change his ideology. But his allies say he was simply delivering the Prime Minister's vision for a low-tax economy.
That's absolutely right, and that's what I said a moment ago. Liz Truss has oversight of everything that happens in government. So if she wasn't comfortable with Kwasi Kwarteng's plan, she should have said that prior to the budget. Now, whenever she was due to be appointed, her words were, I am prepared. I will hit the ground running. Well, let's be fair. She's hit the ground running, but she's run off in the wrong direction. She hasn't listened to what people have advised her about. And one of the things which created the greatest amount of disgust and upheaval in the markets was they reduced the tax rate for the highest earners in society. Now, she said she wants to have a low tax economy and society, but by giving more money to those who have money to start with, made the majority of the population go, what's happening here? We are the people who have the lowest amount of income, but yet you're giving more income to the top 1% of society who have all of the money that we can't access.
Like you say, if Truss is a free market libertarian and came to power last month pledging to cut taxes to spur growth, and now the ability to deliver on that commitment seems to be in doubt, do you think that she will now change the direction in which she's hit the ground running?
Well, hopefully so. That seems to be some indication, because there have been U-turns on some of the policies. But in terms of delivering a low-tax economy, that's absolutely fine. But it has to be equitably applied. You can't pick and choose and say that part of society can have low tax, whereas the lowest earners have the higher proportion of tax. It needs to be equitably displayed across all of society, and everybody's tax rate comes down at the same time. That way we all feel the pain at the same time and feel the benefits at the same time as well. So there's no harm with her policy. It's the implementation of it and, I suppose, the scheduling of those cuts and the increases as appropriate.
Now, looking into the future, apart from previously serving as Foreign and Health Secretary respectively, what else do we know about Jeremy Hunt, who has now been placed as the Finance Minister?
Well, Jeremy Hunt is, if you have a look about him, he is a millionaire, so he is well versed in using money. But whenever his previous role was as Health Secretary, and he was the longest serving Health Secretary, I think, in history. Now, while he was in that role, there was a degree of upheaval amongst doctors in the National Health Service, who, we all think doctors are well paid, and they are well paid, but the hours that they work are absolutely horrendous. And junior doctors particularly were getting a raw deal. It was a strike of junior doctors against Jeremy Hunt, and he would not back down. So it demonstrates that he doesn't always listen, even when there is evidence to suggest that they should change course. Now, if he's coming in now to kind of soften the implementation of the changes that Liz Truss wants, he will just soften them, but he won't change them. So there's a danger that all he will do is buy time for the Conservatives until they can try and find some degree of stability. But it's like putting your finger into a leaky bucket. He's only slowing the exit of confidence in the party. It will not be eliminating the whole altogether.
I mean, what we also know is that he was opposing Liz Truss's campaign. I mean, could this be her way of reaching out in terms of an ally for herself, and the limited experience that he has in Treasury? Do you think that maybe this is just a move on her end to bring him closer?
Well, this is the thing. Jeremy Hunt did back Sunak's bid to become leader, and of course, Richie Sunak was the previous Chancellor of the Exchequer. So he has a colleague to call upon for advice in the shape of Richie Sunak. Is Liz Truss after an ally? I don't think she is politically astute enough to think upon it as an ally. I think she's looking at it as a how do I get out of trouble now situation. She seems to be more like a rabbit in the headlights, as was evidenced at her interview yesterday. It wasn't even an interview, it was a press statement, and then she ran off the stage and didn't answer any questions. So I feel she's overwhelmed at the moment. It will help her, but I don't think she's, thinking it through as he's an ally. It's a help. What can get me out of this situation?
All right, Noel Ferguson, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and giving your take on the new now Finance Minister, Mr. Jeremy Hunt, and the decisions that are being taken by the British Prime Minister. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Now,